Hard lesson 1. Most men fail because they never decide. Failure does not come suddenly. It arrives by quiet permission, through indecision repeated until it becomes habit. The tragedy of the average man is not that he lacks talent, but that he lacks a definite decision to use it. Desire without decision is a dream that feeds on itself until hunger turns to decay. Every step of progress begins with one act, a decision that ends hesitation. Until the will commands, nothing moves. I have studied thousands who failed, and the pattern is cruelly simple. They waited for certainty before acting. But certainty never comes before motion. It is born from it. Henry Ford did not wait for approval before building his first automobile. He made his decision while others mocked. They called him impractical, foolish, a mechanic chasing fantasy. But Ford understood that a single definite choice has more power than 100 intentions. Decision breeds direction. Direction breeds faith. Dr. Frank Gonzalez once declared publicly he would raise $1 million to build a college for those who had none. He possessed neither wealth nor influence, only conviction. Yet that declaration, spoken decisively, set invisible forces in motion. Within weeks, opportunity answered. Decision was the magnet, resources the response. Indecision is the silent thief of time. Every hour of hesitation is a small surrender. The man who delays one day will delay again tomorrow, and soon a decade will pass, clothed in excuses. He will call it prudence, when in truth it is fear wearing reason's mask. The habit of later builds invisible chains. It weakens will until the man who once dreamed of greatness becomes a servant to circumstance. He drifts not because he lacks power, but because he surrendered it grain by grain through indecision. The world respects the man who knows his mind. His decisiveness commands trust even before results appear. Others gather around him instinctively because certainty is magnetic. The indecisive man, no matter his ability, repels assistance. His hesitation infects others with doubt. Say within yourself, I decide swiftly. I hold to my decision calmly. My faith commands action. My mind obeys its own word. These are not words of arrogance. They are acts of discipline. For each decision you make without retreat, your character grows a new layer of strength. Fear dissolves in the presence of movement. Every firm decision carves a path through confusion. The timid man who finally decides discovers courage was never the absence of fear. It was the act of choice despite it. The moment you decide, the universe begins to rearrange itself around your will. Failure begins where decision ends. If you would save 10 years of wandering, learn this law. Think once, decide once, act daily. For in decision lies dominion, the power that separates those who drift from those who direct. Hard lesson 2. Talent without discipline is useless. The graveyard of failure is filled with men of talent who refuse to train it. I have met men whose genius was dazzling, whose ideas sparkled, yet who could not remain faithful to a single pursuit. Their gifts became burdens, for freedom without order collapses upon itself. Discipline is not restriction, it is liberty organized. It is the bridge between imagination and realization. Without it, even the finest mind becomes a prisoner of its moods. Talent desires excitement. Success demands repetition. And repetition, though dull to the restless, is the mother of mastery. Thomas Edison practiced this truth more than he preached it. In his laboratory, he worked to a rhythm that did not depend upon inspiration. He rose, observed, tested, and recorded day after day, year after year. Routine made inspiration predictable. By disciplining his time, he disciplined fortune itself. I once knew a brilliant inventor who changed pursuits every month. Each new idea seemed more promising than the last, and yet none reached completion. He mistook variety for progress and curiosity for growth. When his life closed, his workshop was full of fragments, proof that talent without discipline builds nothing enduring. The law of repetition is divine. Skill becomes instinct only when trained beyond the reach of emotion. The pianist who practices through boredom, the writer who rewrites the same page until it sings, the craftsman who polishes unseen corners all obey the same principle. Perfection is patient repetition. Discipline removes emotion from decision. The disciplined man acts because it is time to act, not because he feels ready. His habits carry him through storms that paralyze others. He does not rely on mood, for he has made motion his nature. Early praise is often a curse. It teaches comfort instead of mastery. Those applauded too soon stop growing, mistaking approval for a rival. True success hides its applause until the work is done, and often not even then. Say within yourself, I love the work that refines me. I master my gifts through order. My discipline is my freedom. Let these words burn through resistance, for discipline is not punishment. It is proof that you are willing to become worthy of what you desire. The disciplined man commands respect without speaking. Others sense his steadiness and follow his example. He becomes a living emblem of reliability in a world addicted to distraction. Genius inspires admiration. Discipline inspires trust. And trust, not brilliance, builds empires. The man who governs himself becomes immune to chaos. He no longer waits for the right conditions because discipline has made every day the right day. Talent may open the door, but discipline alone keeps it from closing. And thus, the gifted man who learns order becomes unstoppable. Hard lesson 3. You cannot build while you complain. Complaint is wasted faith. The energy that could build is spent lamenting what could have been. I have watched men with skill and opportunity destroy both by the slow poison of complaint. They mistake expression for change, and thus their voice replaces their will. Every complaint is a prayer for weakness. It tells the subconscious, I am powerless. Soon the mind obeys that statement. The man who repeats failure in words will live it in fact. Words are instruments of creation. Use them against yourself, and you dig your own grave. Andrew Carnegie faced criticism as few men ever have. He was accused of greed, arrogance, and cruelty by rivals who envied his success. Yet he seldom answered them. While they wasted their words defending their pride, he built more mills, employed more men, gave more wealth to charity. His silence was strategy. His work was reply. I recall a salesman who blamed his company for his poor results. He complained of prices, territories, and management, everything but himself. When challenged to spend 1 month without complaint, he discovered that his energy had been feeding frustration instead of creation. His sales doubled, not because the world changed, but because his attitude did. The mind becomes what it repeats. Complaint, repeated daily, blinds a man to solutions standing in plain sight. Gratitude, repeated daily, sharpens perception until even obstacles reveal hidden advantages. It is not magic. It is mental direction. The habit of criticism marks those who do nothing. Builders are too busy shaping the future to curse the present. Every word of complaint is a brick removed from your own foundation. Every word of gratitude is a stone added to your fortress. Replace every complaint with one act of correction. Do not speak of what you dislike until you have improved it. This habit transforms frustration into motion. In the same hour where others waste power through noise, you gain it through direction. Say within yourself, I build with every word. I refuse to speak against myself. My silence strengthens my success. Let calm replace commentary. Let creation replace complaint. The man who refuses to complain gains a strange and quiet authority. Others trust him because he does not spread unrest. His presence steadies a room. Even when unspoken, his calm rebukes the complainer more effectively than argument ever could. Bitterness is replaced by action. Pity turns to power. And soon results begin to speak louder than grievances ever did. The world does not reward noise, it rewards contribution. Those who stop complaining begin to lead without demanding titles. The man who builds while others talk is the man the years will remember. For time itself is deaf to excuses, but obedient to action. Hard lesson 4. Excuses are the language of failure. I have listened to the defeated justify their ruin in words so clever they almost sounded wise. Yet every excuse, no matter how polished, is a confession of fear. Men fail not because life is unfair, but because they permit themselves to explain instead of correct. Excuse is the mask worn by hesitation when it wishes to appear innocent. During my research, I found no failure without a story. Some blamed their upbringing, others their employer, others their timing. But for every man who failed under such conditions, there was another who succeeded within them. The difference was ownership. One surrendered his power by explaining. The other claimed his power by acting. A young clerk once told me, "I would have succeeded if not for bad luck." Years later, his complaint had matured into bitterness, and his opportunity had vanished. Meanwhile, a colleague who faced the same hardship used it as training. Luck, you see, is the name men give to other people's discipline. Excuses are taught early. Parents and teachers reward self-pity with sympathy instead of correction. Thus, the child grows believing his reasons are worth more than his results. By the time he becomes a man, he cannot separate explanation from effort. His very words defend his stagnation. The mind cannot serve two masters. It cannot hold justification and determination at the same time. Each excuse you repeat steals a fraction of your will. Soon you believe your own story more than your potential. That is how talent dies quietly beneath noble-sounding reasons. Honesty is the first act of greatness. The man who admits his failures without excuse begins the process of mastery. He becomes undefeatable because he accepts total responsibility. Once he owns the cause, he owns the cure. No one can rob a man who no longer blames. Abraham Lincoln bore endless criticism and disaster, yet he never sought refuge in excuses. He said simply, "The responsibility is mine." That humility turned enemies into allies and defeat into patience. Ownership is strength disguised as submission. Only those who bow to truth can rise by it. Say within yourself, "I excuse nothing, I face all. I own my life and direct its cause." These words free you from dependence. They return your destiny to your hands. No longer a victim of chance, you become the cause of every future victory. Excuse transforms to energy the moment you stop speaking it. Every reason you silence becomes a reservoir of strength. The weak man says, "If only." The strong man says, "Next time." Between those two sentences lies the distance between mediocrity and mastery. When you strip yourself of excuses, the world cannot defeat you because it no longer defines you. Life may test you, but it cannot insult you. You have claimed responsibility for your own becoming. That is the first proof of power and the end of failure's rule. Hard lesson 5. Most men stop one step before victory. The difference between the winner and the failure is often one more attempt. The line between defeat and triumph is invisible, crossed only by those who keep moving when logic says stop. Life hides its richest rewards behind one final door, to test whether your desire is genuine or merely curiosity. I have watched men abandon their purpose within sight of achievement. Fatigue disguised itself as reason, doubt as wisdom, comfort as caution. They believed they had given all when in truth they had given nearly all. The last inch of endurance contains more power than the first mile of enthusiasm. Thomas Edison endured 10,000 experiments before light obeyed his command. When others mocked his persistence, he answered, "I have not failed. I have discovered 10,000 ways that will not work." Those words reveal the mind of the immortal, the man who converts every setback into step. Colonel Sanders carried his recipe across states, rejected over 1,000 times, yet he refused surrender. Each rejection refined his presentation, sharpened his purpose, hardened his will. When acceptance finally came, it appeared overnight to those who had not watched his 1,000 invisible days. Failure is never final unless you accept it as instruction completed. The man who persists proves his sincerity to the universe. Life withholds its treasures until you demonstrate endurance worthy of holding them. Every hardship is a test of fitness for the success you claim to desire. Persistence is faith under fire. It is courage repeated. When reason whispers enough, persistence replies once more. The man who persists commands even his body to obey spirit. His feet move though weary, his hands labor though tired, his mind believes though blind. Train yourself to treat fatigue as a signal, not a command. Fatigue means you are near the threshold. The body protests because it senses transformation ahead. Each time you continue 1 hour more, one plan deeper, one conversation longer, you multiply your chance of crossing that invisible line. Say within yourself, I endure beyond disappointment. I finish what I start. My persistence commands results. These words are not comfort. They are orders to your subconscious. They teach the mind that giving up is not permitted. Frustration becomes power when it no longer dictates your direction. Delay becomes education when you stop measuring time by comfort. Life will not deny you the harvest. It simply ensures you have strength to handle it. That strength is built only in the waiting. Remember, the door to fortune often swings on its final hinge. Push once more when others stop. That is where destiny hides from the impatient and reveals itself to the faithful. Hard Lesson 6. Pride destroys what patience would have built. Pride is blindness disguised as strength. It whispers to the man, you are right because you wish to be. Many who stood on the brink of greatness have fallen because they would not wait, listen, or learn. Pride builds towers faster than wisdom builds foundations, and so they crumble first. In my years of study, I found pride more destructive than ignorance. Ignorance can learn. Pride refuses instruction. The proud man defends reputation over reality. He argues when he should observe. He demands applause when silence would teach him. Thus, the victory that patience might have earned slips quietly away. I recall a businessman who lost his investors through arrogance. He refused to admit error, insisting his judgment was beyond question. His partners withdrew not because of failure, but because of his refusal to face truth. Pride isolates a man until only his echo answers him. Andrew Carnegie listened as rivals quarreled, shouted, and boasted. He spoke little, waited long, and when he finally spoke, his words ended argument. Patience gave his speech the weight of thunder. Those who learn to wait become unassailable. Those who rush become forgettable. The law of patience is eternal. Results ripen like fruit. Pick them before their season, and you spoil both labor and reputation. The world remembers not who started fastest, but who finished strongest. And strength is always the child of patience. Humility is not weakness, it is awareness. The humble man sees truth clearly. The proud man sees only reflection. Lincoln endured insult, gossip, and betrayal, yet answered few of them. His patience preserved the Union when pride would have destroyed it. Restraint became his crown. Pride seeks credit. Patience seeks progress. One drains energy in defense of self. The other saves energy for the task. The patient man is difficult to provoke because he knows time fights for him. The proud man battles shadows, imagining every question a threat. Say within yourself, I am unmoved by vanity. I wait for right timing. My calmness protects my crown. These words turn impatience into peace, arrogance into authority. The quiet man rules not by volume, but by vision. His composure is his command. The patient man earns allies. He learns before he acts, listens before he speaks, and finishes what others abandon. To those who watch, he appears wise. To those who follow, he appears safe. And when success comes, it stays, because it has matured with him. Remember, what pride builds swiftly, time destroys easily. What patience builds slowly, eternity cannot erase. Better to arrive 1 year late with wisdom than 1 day early with ruin. For the man who learns patience becomes master not only of his craft, but of himself. Hard lesson 7. Weak associations. Weaken the mind. The men I studied who failed most consistently shared one trait. They surrounded themselves with the wrong company. The indolent, the envious, the gossiping, the timid. These are contagions more deadly than disease. A man may rise through talent, but if his companions lack vision, his spirit soon begins to rot. No man ever succeeds entirely alone, but every man fails through companionship with mediocrity. The world shapes your thinking through the people you permit near your imagination. Each conversation deposits thought into the subconscious. Associate long enough with the small-minded, and even your dreams begin to shrink. I call this the law of chosen influence. Every soul is a tuning fork. It vibrates to the frequencies around it. When you keep company with faith, courage, and creation, you rise. When you walk among doubt, complaint, and fear, you fall. The choice is quiet, but the consequence deafening. Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and Harvey Firestone formed a brotherhood that changed the modern world. They did not meet to gossip or compete, but to exchange ideas, sharpen courage, and remind one another of their power. Their conversations became nations' industries. Their unity created an invisible force no government could regulate. Contrast this with the drifter who spends his evenings among the aimless. He leaves with empty laughter and heavier despair. His ambitions dull, his curiosity fades, his conviction softens. He has traded progress for comfort, energy for entertainment, destiny for distraction. I once knew a craftsman who worked among cynics. They mocked excellence and praised idleness. Slowly, his pride in his work died. When he finally moved to a new environment, among men who built instead of blamed, his spirit revived, his skill improved, his income doubled. Influence had done what instruction could not. Nature joins the similar. Weak men seek company that excuses weakness. Strong men seek company that challenges it. The man of destiny must sometimes walk alone rather than share his path with the stagnant. Solitude is often safer than compromise. Say within yourself, I choose minds that uplift mine. My circle sharpens me. My spirit attracts its equal. Repeat until your standards become law. For you will always attract what you tolerate and repel what you have outgrown. When you purify your associations, opportunity begins to appear. People of influence sense your rising energy and are drawn to it. The lazy and jealous will drift away of their own accord. They cannot breathe the air of purpose. Isolation is temporary. Elevation is eternal. The company of great thoughts will keep you when human company departs. If you would save 10 years of frustration, choose your companions by values, not by comfort. For no man rises above the faith of those he listens to daily. Hard lesson 8. Fear disguises itself as logic. The most dangerous fears do not shout. They whisper in the language of reason. They come dressed as caution, prudence, and practicality. I have watched thousands obey these disguised fears as if they were wisdom. They waited until ready and died still waiting. Fear's favorite disguise is intellect. It says, wait until you are sure. It pretends to be your protector, yet it is the jailer of your potential. Every great decision feels premature. Faith never appears reasonable at the beginning. Only after action does the world call it genius. I, too, once bowed to this false logic. Before publishing my first book, I delayed for months, rewriting endlessly, fearing ridicule. When I finally released it, the world received it gladly, and I saw that my fear had stolen not only time but vitality. The lesson: fear argues convincingly, but it lies. Many men who told me I am being wise were simply being afraid. They called hesitation planning and cowardice caution. The result was the same. They did nothing. The years passed, their energy waned, and they called their stagnation contentment. Fear wins most battles without ever raising its voice. The law of daring governs progress. Every major success begins with a step the mind could not justify. The bridge of faith is built by crossing it, not by studying its design. The universe respects courage more than logic. It opens doors only for those willing to knock before knowing what lies beyond. Entrepreneurs who waited until conditions improved were outlived by those who began while others doubted. Henry Ford built his motor car while the experts laughed. Edison created light while scientists said it was impossible. Their daring was not ignorance. It was faith under discipline. Fear borrows the voice of prudence. It tells you to protect what little you have rather than pursue what you desire. Yet everything valuable I have seen was gained through risk, the risk of being misunderstood, of being mocked, of being momentarily alone. Say within yourself, I think with courage, I act before comfort. My faith commands my mind. Repeat until thought obeys will. For faith is not emotion, it is motion before evidence. Action destroys fear as light destroys darkness. The man who conquers fear becomes rare, and rarity commands respect. Others sense his courage and gather near it, seeking shelter beneath his certainty. His calm boldness becomes contagious. Where others tremble, he moves, and movement itself makes him leader. Fear will always visit. It cannot live where decision acts swiftly. Whenever your mind presents a reasonable excuse to delay, recognize it for what it is, the elegant lie of timidity. Step forward anyway. Victory belongs to the unreasonable man who dares before proof. Hard lesson 9. The mind becomes what it repeats. I have discovered one law above all others. Repetition is creation. Thought, reinforced through emotion and habit, becomes identity. The mind does not argue. It obeys whatever it hears most often, whether truth or falsehood. This single fact explains both failure and success. Every repeated thought lays a brick upon the architecture of your subconscious. Speak limitation long enough, and you will build a prison. Speak power long enough, and you will build a palace. The world outside mirrors the structure within. This is the law that governs all achievement. Andrew Carnegie mastered this law by repeating belief into his men. He told them they were capable of greatness until they began to act accordingly. Their confidence created competence. His empire was not built on machinery alone, but on suggestion repeated until it became conviction. I met many who spoke constantly of fear, failure, and fatigue. They did not realize they were building what they described. The subconscious cannot take a joke. It executes whatever instructions are most consistent. Thus, a man who complains daily soon creates the very conditions he laments. Repetition organizes energy. Each thought repeated becomes easier to think again. Soon it requires no effort. That is why one must guard words carefully. They become reflex before becoming reality. What you allow yourself to say, you are commanding yourself to live. Train your tongue to serve your faith, not your fear. Before you speak, ask, do these words build or break me? If they destroy confidence, replace them. If they inspire strength, repeat them. The mind learns through echo. The echo becomes existence. Say within yourself, I repeat success until it becomes me. I reject the language of doubt. These words, said morning and night, will plant new law into your subconscious. Repetition, not inspiration, writes destiny. A single affirmation lived daily outweighs 1,000 resolutions forgotten. As your speech changes, others will notice a strange steadiness in you. They will sense certainty without knowing why. That is because consistency radiates energy. Those whose minds are disciplined through repetition seem lucky, when in truth they are simply aligned. A wandering mind dissipates power. A repeated purpose concentrates it. Faith itself is repetition made permanent. Continue speaking truth until thought obeys and habit reinforces it. The mind you train today becomes the master that serves you tomorrow. And so guard your repetition with jealousy. For what you rehearse in secret becomes what the world applauds or pities in public. You are building yourself brick by brick, word by word. Speak only that which you wish to live forever. Hard Lesson 10. Wealth without character destroys its holder. I have witnessed many men who gained fortunes only to lose their souls beneath the weight of them. They learned how to earn, but never how to rule what they earned. Money is power, but power without principle becomes a curse. Riches magnify the nature of the one who holds them. If he is wise, they serve him. If he is vain, they enslave him. I have spoken with heirs who inherited empires yet ended in disgrace. They mistook luxury for leadership. They thought comfort could replace character. They discovered too late that money obeys only those who respect it as responsibility. Wealth does not create wisdom. It reveals the absence of it. Andrew Carnegie possessed the spirit of stewardship. His riches were never ornaments but instruments. He gave away his fortune to educate, uplift, and advance the minds of others. His libraries, universities, and endowments are proof that wealth directed by purpose becomes eternal capital, value multiplied through generations. I knew another man who acquired great profits in trade but spent them on vanity. He built mansions, bought applause, and surrounded himself with flatterers. When the market shifted, his empire collapsed, and no friend remained. Money had magnified his selfishness until even his virtues died of starvation. The law of stewardship cannot be broken without punishment. Each dollar carries moral energy. When spent for good, it returns multiplied. When wasted, it demands repayment through loss, shame, or emptiness. Money, like electricity, must be grounded in service, or it will burn its possessor. Wealth should never lead a man. It should follow him. The true master of riches uses them as tools for the betterment of others. He sees in every coin a chance to build, heal, or educate. He measures success not by what he keeps, but by what continues because of him. Riches without moral training destroy judgment. They lure the unprepared into arrogance. The man who has never earned through effort cannot respect the value of what he holds. He mistakes ownership for entitlement, and in that confusion loses both wealth and dignity. Say within yourself, I rule my wealth, it does not rule me. I use abundance to advance good. These words make gold your servant instead of your master. Money cannot corrupt a man whose heart already serves a higher law. When wealth is used rightly, it becomes wisdom in motion. The world begins to trust you with greater responsibility. Influence extends beyond the grave because it was earned through integrity. Fortune itself bows to those who treat it as a trust, not a trophy. Character is the final currency. The man who spends it carelessly, no matter his account, will die bankrupt. But the one who invests it daily in service will never know poverty, for gratitude will multiply his name long after his gold has turned to dust. Hard Lesson 11. Failure only destroys the man who refuses its lesson. Failure is not the end. It is the unseen beginning of wisdom. I have studied thousands who stumbled, and I have found that defeat teaches more than victory ever could, provided a man listens. But the proud resist correction, and so failure returns to them. Lesson unlearned. until humility opens their ears. Every setback is an unpaid teacher. Life does not punish without purpose. Each disappointment carries instruction. Each wound contains direction. The only true failure is the refusal to understand. The man who asks, "What did this mean?" transforms pain into profit. Edison burned through 10,000 experiments before he found a filament that would hold light. He paid tuition in failure until knowledge became instinct. Henry Ford faced bankruptcy, ridicule, and rejection before his motor car moved the world. Each collapse was shaping him for a success he could sustain. I myself tasted ruin. I lost fortunes, confidence, and reputation before discovering that adversity does not destroy, it refines. Those years of defeat became my laboratory. Through them, I found the laws that later built my work. Without those failures, my understanding would have been shallow, my teaching incomplete. The law of adjustment governs all progress. Success is the rearrangement of error into wisdom. Each failure, rightly examined, corrects a weakness of thought or conduct. The man who studies his own defeats saves years of wandering. The one who excuses them repeats the lesson until time runs out. Failure humbles pride and awakens compassion. It teaches patience, perspective, and faith. Those who have suffered greatly often lead gently, for they know what pain costs. They become magnetic because they radiate understanding instead of arrogance. Others sense in them the strength of those who have survived themselves. Say within yourself, "My defeats refine me, my errors educate me. I rise instructed." Let this conviction turn every misstep into momentum. When others fear loss, you will see only training. That which once humiliated you will one day become your testimony. The man who learns from failure becomes invincible. He has faced the worst and found wisdom inside it. What can defeat a man who turns every fall into foundation? His life becomes a staircase carved from disappointment, leading steadily upward toward mastery. Defeat is never final until pride refuses the lesson. But once you learn, you have conquered not only the failure, but the fear of it. And when fear dies, freedom begins. You become at last the architect of experience rather than its victim. Epilogue. I have spent a lifetime studying failure, and I can tell you this: life is not cruel. It is precise. It does not punish beyond reason. It corrects through law. These 11 lessons are not judgments. They are instructions written in the lives of 25,000 men who proved what happens when principle is ignored. Each truth is a mirror. When a man sees himself clearly, he has already begun to change. The law of decision, of discipline, of gratitude, of patience, of faith, they all serve one master principle: responsibility. Success belongs to those who accept full authorship of their existence. Failure is the world's most faithful teacher, though few graduate from its class. Those who learn from it save decades of struggle. They do not waste energy resisting reality. They align with it, and life itself begins to work in their favor. Fortune is not given. It is attracted by obedience to law. Time is the real currency of existence. Most men spend it blindly. They exchange priceless years for comfort, for distraction, for excuses. But every moment of reflection, every lesson absorbed, returns interest in clarity, peace, and mastery. To understand these truths now is to reclaim years that ignorance would have stolen. Let these affirmations live within you until they become instinct. I decide swiftly. I discipline daily. I speak only to build. I refuse excuse. I persist through trial. I master pride. I choose my circle. I silence fear. I repeat faith. I rule my fortune. I learn from loss. Say them not as poetry, but as promise. For each principle you practice today, life will reward you tomorrow. Each law you obey replaces chance with certainty. Success is not found in avoiding failure, but in mastering it. The man who does this becomes teacher to time itself. He no longer fears the years, for he commands them. And when his final hour arrives, he will not ask for more days. He will thank God for the days he used wisely. For the world does not remember the man who lived easily. It remembers the one who lived deliberately, who learned, who served, and who conquered himself. That man has not merely succeeded, he has fulfilled the purpose of life itself.